Hi guys, welcome to the workshop. Today I'd like to show you another cute little item that's a very simple beginner level sewing tutorial that I think you'll enjoy. We're going to be making this pumpkin. It's a very easy project to make and I think you'll enjoy it. I've seen a lot of these around in different places, especially now during the holiday season as decorations. It's a cute little, what I like to call pick-me-up to have in your booth if you sell items in a booth or at craft fairs. So I thought I would share with you how I made this one, and hopefully you'll want to make one too. So let's get started. Okay, a few things you're going to need for this project is you're going to need your fabric, obviously, and you're going to need a pattern if you aren't confident in your ability to draw a pumpkin, which I was not. So I went to the trusted old internet, as I have done with several projects, and I searched for a pumpkin cutout, a free pumpkin cutout, and I found this one that I liked, and I downloaded it, and when I printed it larger. It's the width of a piece of printer paper, because I thought that was going to be a good size. You can draw one out if you want to, or you can do this and print one that I found as a free downloadable printable on Google. Now for my fabric, I found this old piece of a tattered quilt at a junk store that I was in last year. And I knew it would be good for something, but I didn't know what it was. It really wasn't. It was already torn and everything. It wasn't big enough to use, you know, as a quilt, but I thought it would make a cute pumpkin. And typically what I do whenever I'm making things to go in our booth to sell, I try to make them in batches. So that's what I'm going to do with this. What I'm going to do is take my pattern and lay it down and trace it out. Now I'm using a pen. It's just a regular old ink pen, and the reason that I'm using that is I know that I'm going to cut this out, and so it's not going to show. So I'm just kind of briefly tracing this out on the back side of the quilt. Like that. Then I'm going to move my fabric down and I'm going to cut out one more. And I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of trace this out here on the back of the quilt. Like that. Now, what I'm using for the back of this particular quilt is some of this velveteen fabric that I found at the same junk store last year, and I just loved the color. So I'm going to do the same thing. I have more of this. I've just cut a small piece so that it'll be a little bit easier, because it's actually a very big piece of fabric, and I didn't want to have it strewn out around here. And trace it out. On the back of my fabric. Just like that. Then take your pinking shears if you have any. Doesn't have to be pinking shears. I just like the way that it makes them look at the end. And go around your design and cut it out. You know, this is a little bit thicker to cut. And I'm going to cut this top off, the stem. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to do something different with that. I'll show you that at the end. Pinking shears are not my most favorite thing to cut with, just simply because they don't cut as smoothly. So that's going to be the back of my pumpkin. And now here with these, since this is quilted and it's a bigger piece of fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut out the piece that I need here to cut out these smaller, or these other fronts of the pumpkin. One thing that's making this a little harder to cut out, on top of the fact that I'm having to use pinking shears, is, you know, the way the knots and everything are in the quilt. We're going to just work on one right now. So I'm going to be using, this is the front. The velveteen part will be the back. But one thing I'm going to do, since I am using this old quilt and it's got these knots in it, is I'm going to go along the back where they're close to the edge where I'm going to be sewing, and I'm going to clip them in the back. I think those are all of the ones I need to get, and then that way I can just pull them out. I don't know if I did that one or not. Nope. And that way I won't have to worry about them jamming up my sewing machine. And then also what I'm going to do to make it easier to sew, as I said, you know, it is an old quilt, so I've got the front and the back, plus I've got the batting on the inside, and that's just going to make it a lot thicker. I'm going to go around the middle, or around the edge rather, where I know I'm going to be sewing. And I'm going to take this batting out. That way it'll just be a lot easier to sew. I won't have all of those thicknesses to go through. Now, oh, I was going to take the top off. Let's take that off. Okay. Now, this is the front. This is going to be the back. I'm going to flip it out over and place them together, wrong sides together. Okay? You're doing this, you're not gonna flip it. So you're doing this so that the right sides are out. Okay. And now in order to get this little stem on the top, let's see, where's my example? Here's my example. In order to get this little stem on the top, I'm just going to create one and stick it down in here for whenever I sew it. This one I did from the wrong side of the quilt. See, this is the wrong side of the quilt. So I'm just going to cut part of this into what I think looks like a pumpkin stem. Cut it down like that. Clip these on the back because again I don't want them to get jammed up in my machine. Pull the knots out. Let's even that up. And I'm going to take the batting out, part of the batting out along the sides so I can stitch it okay. I want to leave a little bit in the middle simply because I want it to be able to have a little, I want it to stand up, I want it to be a little bit fluffed. Okay, that's still not even. There. And then I'm going to fold it over and stitch around the sides like that, and that's going to be my pumpkin stem. Okay, so now I'm going to do that at the same time I stitch the pumpkin together. So let's put a little pin in here. And then these, you've got these placed together. Back, right side out. Front, right side out. I'm going to put a couple of pins in here just to hold it together. And then I'm going to take my pumpkin stem here. Let me put that in there. Still kind of even it up a little bit. That's the one thing about not having an actual pattern for something. You can kind of adjust it as you need to on the fly. So I'm going to take this and put it kind of at an angle wherever I think the pumpkin stem would be, like that. Okay. But first, I'm going to sew this together. I'm going to sew on the outside, up here, down here, and right there. Let me do that real quick, and that way you can actually see. Okay. See, I just folded that over, and whoops, there. See, I just folded that over and stitched up and around. And since I folded it and I'm not turning it, you can still see part of the quilted side too. And I'm going to take this and stick it right between, I think sometimes pumpkin stems are off to the side. Put it right there. And pin that in. So I'm going to go over to the machine now and stitch starting right here, up and around, and then stop down here at the bottom, and that'll give me just a little bit of room to get the stuffing in. Okay? Okay. Stitch together. Stem in the middle. I just don't feel like that's the right word. Is it a pumpkin stem? I don't know. I just don't feel like that's right. Stalk? I don't think that's right either. Okay, what we're going to do now is get some batting, and I keep this little bag full of batting, that way I don't have to have my whole box full of it in the workshop with me. I can just go and fill my bag up. And this is probably all I'm going to need because I don't want it stuffed real tight. I just want it stuffed enough to look cute. Put that in there. Maybe one more little blob, just a little bit more. Okay. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the machine and sew this up. One thing that I do before I do that though is I push all the stuffing up to the top just to make sure it's out of the way so it won't get caught in my machine, and then I get a pin and pin it kind of up high that'll hold that stuffing in place, and I can go and stitch that up. Okay, it's all stitched up. Let's take this pin out, cut the strings off. Now, one thing I do always try to do with these, especially something that I'm stuffing, is flip both sides over and make sure that you've cut all the edges, or caught all the edges in here, because this isn't a precise project. You're kind of just laying stuff together and you want it layered here at the end. So I just like to go back through and make sure that all the edges were caught in the stitching. Okay, now we've got it closed up. I took that pin out, and then now all I want to do is just kind of puff it up a little bit. There, like that. And now it's ready to decorate. Now what I did on this one is probably what we're going to do to this one here. So we're going to need to make a little tag like this. So what I'm going to do is I'll get a piece of this canvas drop cloth that I have here, and I'm going to stitch up and around all of the sides just to make a little square in there, because we're going to fray the edges of it, and I don't want it to be I don't want it to continue fraying. So okay, see, that's all I did, is just put a little square in it so that it will not continue to fray after we attach it to the pumpkin. What we're going to do to fray the edges is I'm going to use my Cricut weeding tool, or I actually bought a weeding tool from Dollar Store. It came 2 in a pack. This comes in handy. You could even use a pin, like a safety straight pin, but all you're going to do is just kind of go along the sides and fray those edges. Okay, that just kind of gives it more of a vintage look, an older look. And I personally like that look of things, especially at the holidays. I don't know, it just gives it a warmer feeling to me. This is a step you don't have to do if you don't want to. You can decorate your pumpkin however you want to. this is just how I'm doing mine. I guess that one got caught under the seam. So now we've got our little frayed tag. And then I'm going to get my black Sharpie marker. That's probably going to show up backwards for you in the video, but sorry about that. And I'm going to say this is an old world pumpkin, so he's only going to cost 5 cents. So I'm going to pick which side I like the best. It's going to be this one, and I'm going to write with my paint marker $5 cents. And I'm going to put it each down at the bottom, just because I started a little too far over. See there? And there's my tag. And now we're going to decorate this however you want to. You can do any of this, all of this, it doesn't matter. But I'll show you how I did mine. I have a bunch of this different fabric like this that I've bought just over time to have. Let me show you. And I just kind of keep some of it laying around just for projects just like this. But I kind of like the green. That just kind of brightens it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, instead of just a precise cut, or even a cut with the pink and shears, I'll make a little snip at the top and then just rip it. And that just kind of frays the edges out a little bit more, and it makes more of a, I guess you could say, primitive. I don't think this is totally primitive, but just a little more homespun feel. Though I'll also keep a bag of raffia. And you know, this stuff gets to be a mess after you've taken a few pieces out. So I just keep it in here and pull out what I need. So I'm going to take 2 of these, well, maybe 3 because that one's long. And tie that around the top of my pumpkin. Now, since I can't really tie it, I'm going to get my glue gun and put a little dot of glue right there to hold that down. So it won't go anywhere as I'm doing the rest of this. I'll put a little dot back here in the back too. These things are the bomb if you hadn't got them. I got them at the dollar store. They come in like sets of 3, because I am the world's worst to burn myself on a glue gun. Because that stuff gets hot. I was actually up here working yesterday, crazy story, and dropped. I was using my glue gun, I was holding it up, and a blob of hot glue fell in my hand. I don't know if you can see that blister right there. That's about the worst one I've done it. Luckily it doesn't hurt anymore now, but yesterday, boy, it sure did hurt. Okay, now I'm going to make a little bow. Out of this. Whoops. Wait a minute, let me start over. I got twisted in my raffia. Make a little bow. Kind of tie that up. Twist it around, kind of whatever you want to do with it. Cut part of that off. Tear that down some. I'll cut this one some. Spread this out. The whole purpose is just to make it kind of, I don't like to use the word primitive, and I'm not sure why. I choose to use the word homey. Make it look a little more homey. I am going to put just a dot of glue back there behind that to hold that bow how I want it to be. There. Then I'm going to get my twisted or my ripped piece of fabric here and grab a piece of twine. Just cut off a piece of that. And this piece was a little long. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is fold it over and kind of scrunch it down in the middle. Take my twine and wrap around it a couple times. And tie it off. Just to make a little bow. And now we'll cut it apart, that way it's two separate pieces, because I don't want this to be all matchy and everything. I want it to look very homey and very very loved. Okay, very comfortable. Very comfortable. Okay. So that's going to be my little bow. And I'm going to put this right over here, probably, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to leave some of the twine on there. Probably going to put it just down like that, just a little bit, up under the raffia bow. We'll see where it decides it wants to sit. Like that. Put a little drop of hot glue on the back of your bow. That's probably why I get burnt all the time, is I put more glue than is needed, but I know I'm adding other stuff underneath it, so press that down. Hold that for just a minute until it sets. There. And now we're going to decide where we're going to put our tag. This other one I kind of put up at the top, but I think I want to put this one down at the bottom. Maybe kind of like that. Maybe we'll put it that way. And we'll put a couple of dots of or a little line rather, of hot glue on here. And stick that down. Put one more dot at the bottom. And there's our little pumpkin. Okay, there's our little pumpkin, all done. Well, I gotta get the fuzzies off the back from where it was on the table with the raffia. But I went ahead and did the other one. So now I've got 3 little pumpkins that I've made in just a matter of minutes with just scraps of fabric and probably some stuff that you have laying around the house. I don't know. But if you're like me, you like to collect fabric and hang on to it and collect just things. And it's easy enough to find what you need to make just these cute little pumpkins. So that is my other cute little project that I wanted to share with you. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or anything that I can answer, I'll be glad to. I try to keep an eye on all the comments that come in on our videos, and I do try to get back to everybody. Anyway, I hope you liked making some pumpkins with me. I'm going to make a little pumpkin patch to go in our booth that we sell our items in, and hopefully they will find their way out and into the world sometime soon. Guys, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today. I certainly appreciated it. If you would, please subscribe to our channel and give me a thumbs up. That would really help us out a whole lot. Thanks, guys. You all have a great day.